Hi, this is David Snell with ExecutiveRestoration.com. Got mold. We have the cure.com, and I have Jim Packard with Control Environmental Group, and we're going to be talking about maintenance issues for the home, for your business, some things to look out for. And Jim, welcome again to the YouTube channel. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your wisdom. And when we really appreciate you taking the time to educate us and the viewers on what we can look for and some of the things that we can do for maintenance around our house or building. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, David, for having me. Yeah, I think there's a real need for staying on top of the maintenance issues as they relate to mold, and can really help prevent some very serious problems. So I'm happy to contribute what I can contribute.
What are some things, in your opinion and your experience, that people need to be aware of or that people need to be looking out for, Jim?
Well, some very simple things, and yet, they're going to take a little time. It's not something that requires monthly observation, but certainly once or twice a year. Things like your sliding window tracks. They can accumulate a lot of debris. The wind blows up against that glass, and the slider side or the track side of that window can load up with debris. It gets broken up when the window gets opened and closed, and then it makes its way underneath of that track. So one thing, at least once a year, I recommend you take that one side of the window out that slides, take it completely out of the track, and you vacuum that track, and then pull that plastic track out of the window and vacuum underneath of it. It's a very simple thing to do. It takes 10-15 minutes, but I find a lot of mold underneath those window tracks. And of course, if the window's open and the wind's blowing right in the right direction, it can bring mold into the house. And then not only does that create a problem, but if it happens to get down, work its way through the end pieces of the window frame, it can get into the structure underneath. So it's really something that needs to be watched. I think another thing that people don't take the time to check is the basement window wells. Those should certainly be checked once or twice a year, and by check I mean during a heavy rain. Go downstairs in the basement, check your windows. Is that window well filling up? Those window wells fill up with leaves and a lot of other debris, and eventually over time it's going to reduce the flow of the water that makes its way in there during rain, and that can flow right over the edge of the window into the basement.
Right.
So, and a big thing, David, I think from a maintenance standpoint is a shower routine, and that's what should be established in a home.
Right.
When you shower, always that fan needs to be on. That exhaust fan.
Now, how do we know if the exhaust fan is working, Jim?
Well, what I typically, of course, this is probably not good advice for a homeowner. I use a smoke pen.
Okay.
But homeowners don't have smoke pens. And the thing, and I'll let you address that, David, because I know you deal with it more than I do. But the the shower fan, if you're putting in a new one, have it linked to the light, so when you turn the light on, the fan comes on.
Excellent idea.
And when you're done showering, leave the door to the bathroom open and leave the fan on for 15 or 20 minutes.
Right.
Certainly, if you have a window, open it. But these shower fans can be a real issue. So why don't you tell us, David, about how do you know if that's working?
Well, for the people out there who don't have a lot of technology, I would suggest to people just throw a piece of toilet paper on your fan, on your exhaust fan in your bathroom, to see if it holds, to see if it's actually vacuuming, to see if it's actually sucking. And if it will hold the piece of toilet paper on the fan, that means that it is operational. That means that it is exhausting out. And if it's not, if there's some kind of obstruction there, and there's no seal and there's no vacuum there, then either we have an obstruction in the exhaust fan, it's not hooked up properly, or it was never properly done to begin with. And
Right.
I see a lot of apartments, they've got exhaust fans, and you turn them on and they're working. And I'll just, a real simple exhaust fan test is just throw a piece of toilet paper up there, and if it will hold, that means it's actually vacuuming it out. And that's what the exhaust fan is for, is to exhaust the humidity and the smells from the bathroom out. So I love your idea in the fact that there are a lot of people who forget to turn the exhaust fan on. So, if they get a licensed electrician and hook this in the exhaust fan in with the light, so when they when they turn that switch, not only is the light going to come on, but the exhaust fan's going to come on.
Yes.
And I would say probably 75% of the homes, either there's an obstruction, it wasn't hooked up properly, or it's cracked. It's cracked there as far as the hose up in the attic or in the basement, and I see not only exhaust fans with problems, but people who've got, when they do their laundry, they're having their laundry exited out of their home into the attic or their crawl space, and it's a very, very bad move, folks. Very bad move.
Oh yeah.
Because what you're doing is you're pulling that the moisture that's coming from your dryer into your attic and into your crawl space, and you're creating so many more problems. So yes.
Well, and of course, depending on the type of vent shroud that's on the end of that vent hose, I've seen them plugged with bird nest. So check it once a year if you can get to it. I'm not suggesting that anyone should go up on a roof, but if your vents are coming out, the dryer vent or even your bathroom vent are coming out the side of the house, they've got the angled crown on it, and birds will get in there and nest and block the flow. The other thing that you need to be careful of with both the shower vent and the dryer vent is if it's going up into your attic, look up there once a year and make sure that pipe hasn't come apart. There are joints in some of those. Now, many times they run of 20, 30 foot length. That's no good, because that 4-inch flexible tubing that's used to vent the air, that can dip in between the joist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, you can get a differential in the temperatures between winter and summer, and that will allow a buildup of moisture in those dips, and you can get mold in those. And while, yes, you're blowing out, if the wind's just right, you're at times going to get some airflow back through that vent tube.
Right.
And that can make its way back into the house.
Okay.
So you want, like I said, if you, and certainly if you look in the attic and you see that these things are not being vented outside, that needs to be addressed immediately. That's very critical.
That is good to know.
Mold in the attic is not something you're going to want to deal with, and if your bathroom fan or your dryer vent is dead ending in the attic, very serious potential problem from a cost standpoint and maybe a health standpoint.
Right. And some other things about our home is I see dehumidifiers in homes, of course. I see dehumidifiers in homes. I see humidifiers in homes. And of course, we all know that a dehumidifier is pulling moisture out of the air and a humidifier is putting moisture in the air. So I'll go in some homes and the humidity will be 80, 90%. And I'm just, and I ask people, I said, why is the humidity so high? They're like, I don't know, Dave. So I look around and I see a humidifier. And not only do I see a humidifier and the humidity is extreme in the home, but I look at the humidifier and Jim, there is so much growth in the humidifier. And I tell people, if you're using a dehumidifier, which is pulling moisture out of the air, and a humidifier putting moisture in the air, make sure that you clean it out once a week. The reservoir, because sludge will build up in there. So just some things to watch out for in the home. I understand that some homes are very dry and people want more moisture. I get that. But if people overdo it, they're going to have mold issues. So.
Well, that's true. That's true, David. It's a good point. And you know, what I've noticed particularly are these inline humidifiers, furnace humidifiers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recommend them at all. In fact, I don't know of a builder, at least out here in Colorado, that would ever recommend an inline furnace humidifier. The filters load up, the housings leak, and like you said, it's just it's a constant battle to stay ahead of it.
Right. So that is some really good information to know to help people around their home be more informed and more educated. And you know, some other issues is that number one, and I think we all have dryers. Let's make sure that our dryers, we keep the dryer vents vacuumed out. We keep the tube vacuumed out. And your lint catcher in your dryer, make sure that every time when you dry your clothes, make sure that filter is wiped out with your fingers, because I've seen those filters so thick that it can't even breathe.
Oh, yes.
So, and then what happens is it backs up into your home, and that's humidity that you're putting into your home. So we don't need an overload of humidity in homes. Another way that people can create mold in their homes.
Yes. And while we're on the dryer vent, check, even if you have to go to a big box or a hardware store and buy a mirror that telescopes and angles, so you can look behind that dryer once a year if you don't want to pull it out, and make sure that there's not lint all over the wall and the floor, that dryer vent hose has loosened or has disconnected and is not venting properly. I find that so often when I'm inspecting a home, is that dryer vent hose on the back of the dryer has come loose. Or you can, I've seen where a dryer's been bumped very hard,
Mm-hmm.
and it will push it up against the wall and break that aluminum.
Right. Now,
So you want to check that.
Jim, do you prefer the plastic tubing to that's venting out of the home for the dryer, or do you prefer the aluminum?
You know, I think likely, David, I prefer the plastic and nylon over the aluminum.
Okay. And can you tell the viewers maybe why you prefer that?
Well, I just find it tends to last a little longer than the aluminum. The aluminum seems to be very thin.
Mm-hmm.
And the plastic and nylon is more flexible.
Okay.
So it allows for bumping and so forth. But certainly those two things, the dryer vent and the bathroom fan, they're critical to check once a year anyway.
Right. Now, Jim, another thing that people might need to be aware of, and a lot of people don't even think about this in their home, is the refrigerator. When was the last time that anybody has taken off the back of their refrigerator and vacuumed out the bottom of the refrigerator? Because those coil build up with dust bunnies. There are rodents that hide in there, believe it or not. And when I go into so many homes and I ask them, when's the last time that anybody took off the back panel of your refrigerator? Like, never, Dave.
Yeah.
I was like,
exactly.
okay. So have you ever scooted the refrigerator out from behind from the wall here? No. I said, well, I'll tell you what. Let's take off that back panel, and everyone that we have done that to has been so nasty.
Oh, they do get very nasty. And the condensate pans load up with mold, or can load up with mold, because you've got the heat there from the compressor,
right?
And you get the condensate in the pan, and you get dust.
Right.
And you can get a real mess in that. And of course, the one of the dangers of that, if you don't clean that pan at least once a year, like I said, the compressor generates heat.
Right.
Now, we know that warm air moves to cold air. So if you've got mold in that condensate pan and you open your refrigerator door, that warm air underneath that refrigerator is going to move into your box, your cooling box, and it most likely will bring some spore with it. So, I mean, that's just, we're not going to stop that. That's the way air moves.
Right.
From the cold. So,
right.
You want to be careful that condensate pan and that whole mechanism back there of the compressor and the electric motor, and like you said, that whole area is cleaned at least once a year.
Now, another thing that a lot of people don't even think of is for people who have their HVAC unit in their attic. Now, I don't know about Colorado, but it's quite common in North Carolina to have HVAC units in their attic. Now, what happens is the condensation drain pan underneath the unit itself, those need to be, you can get a little brush that's got, it's like a snake, just to push it through, because you have got a buildup that will build up inside that condensation line. Sludge, organic growth, mold. So you have obstructions. Now, when there is obstructions, or when there are obstructions in that condensation line, that pan is going to overflow. When that pan overflows, you're going to have water damage into your house if it's in, your attic, and it's going to drip down onto your ceiling. So there are a lot of maintenance issues that people really need to address. And I tell people once a year, you need to have somebody come through your home and just do a visual on things, at least a visual.
Yes.
Because there are things that the average person is not going to know about, is not going to see. And that's why we're doing these videos, is to educate and inform others of some things to look out for. So we've talked about the exhaust fan, we've talked about the refrigerator, we've talked about the pan underneath the HVAC unit, the condensation line. We've talked about the dryer vent and how that needs to be vacuumed out once a year. Make sure you clean the lint thing in the front of the dryer or wherever it is before you do any load of laundry. One of the other tips I want to give people, when you dry your clothes, if you will put a beach towel in there with it, a dry beach towel, or a microfiber rag, your clothes will dry much quicker. So a little helpful tip for the day there. So these are just helpful tips to educate you guys and to inform you guys. And Jim has a wealth of knowledge about things like this. He's out of Colorado, Fort Collins, Colorado. The name of his company is Control Environmental Group. Is that correct, Jim?
Yes, that's correct, David.
Control Environmental Group. He's out of Fort Collins. Excuse me. He's got a Google My Business page, so you can look him up on Google My Business there. And Jim, do you have any other helpful tips that you could help the homeowners out with?
Well, one thing I frequently deal with, David, baseboard heat. Once a year, take the front cover off, and with a HEPA vacuum,
the fins?
The fins. They will load up with dust. Every bit of research I've seen over the past 8 to 10 years, 30, at least up to 30% of that dust is made up of penicillium, aspergillus, and cladosporium mold.
Oh my goodness!
So if you get into a situation where you have a condensate problem because of the baseboard heat, you can get into some trouble.
Now, would you also recommend, after you HEPA vac the fins, after you take off the panel that's protecting the fins for the baseboard heat, would you recommend that they clean those fins with anything, Jim? Spray them down, get a toothbrush?
If they were going to, David, I would say white vinegar and water.
Okay, so white distilled vinegar and water.
Yeah.
Maybe with a toothbrush and just kind of agitate the fins, maybe?
Yeah, just a little bit, but certainly a good vacuuming. And while we're on vacuuming, let me put this out there, David. If you're using a cleaning service, do not allow that cleaning service to use their vacuum in your home. If you need to have your own vacuum in your home, so when your cleaning service comes in, they use your vacuum and not a vacuum that they're bringing in from someone else's home that could distribute mold spores into your house.
So basically they'd be cross-contaminating, correct?
That's right. That's right.
And I can relate with what you just said. When I used to have a cleaning service for my home, when they were cleaning and vacuuming, I'd come into the living room and I would, I would just smell this mustiness. And I was just like, are you using my vacuum cleaner or yours? They're using theirs.
Yes.
And they didn't have a HEPA filter on the vacuum cleaner.
Right.
And the other thing is that if you're going to vacuum your home, I would recommend that you buy a good vacuum cleaner that's got a HEPA filter on it.
And
They're
that's the only thing you should buy for your home.
yeah, and
It truly is.
they're very economical. There is one. You've got I think Dyson, or is it Tyson? I think it's Dyson. There's the
That's a
Shark.
good one.
Yeah, there's a Shark out there. You got Electrolux. Now, I'm not endorsing any of these brands that I'm saying. I'm just saying that that's some of your options. But, keep your home vacuumed. I always tell people at least once every 2 weeks, once every week, especially if you have carpet. But even if you don't have carpet and you got hardwood floors, if you got VCT or hard floors, keep things vacuumed, keep things dusted, keep things swept up, because everything gets dirty, folks. Everything. Just like our bodies. We get bodies. People say, well, Dave, how often should I take a shower or a bath? And I'll be like, well, some people only take one once a week. Some people take one once a day. Some people take one a couple times a day. It just really depends how dirty you get. So just remember, everything is going to get dirty. So we need to maintain it. And if we don't maintain it, it's going to cause us problems. One of the things that you brought to my attention, into the viewers and to the listeners of this channel, Jim, is that from the very beginning we talked about windows. Now, what about wooden windows? What about for the older homes? Do you have any recommendations for wooden windows?
Well, my recommendation is at least once a year, if not twice. And this stuff, folks, should be put on your calendars so it's not forgotten.
Right.
Those windows should be examined. Look for mold. If there's soil, get the soil out of there. Soil is a food source for mold. So get rid of it. And it doesn't take that long. You can clean up most, soiled window frames in a matter of 10 minutes. The wood windows the same way. They need to be examined both inside and out, because you will find sometimes that you will see where the framing on the window is warped, or it's cracked due to its age in the sun, and so on and so forth. So you want to look at those things to prevent mold issues.
The other reason that people want to clean their windows at least once a year is because the pollen. Like right now in Charlotte, North Carolina, oh my goodness, there's pollen everywhere. Yes. On the windows, on vehicles, just all over. So, you might want to HEPA vac your windows, wipe your windows down inside, wipe them outside. And just remember, folks, that if you will maintain things, they will last a lot longer, and you will also be a lot healthier.
Yeah, good advice. David, another thing that I think that I'm finding is becoming very important to pay attention to in your closets, particularly closets on outside that have an outside wall, an exterior wall.
Right.
You have boxes or other materials stored in your closet. Keep everything 3 or 4 inches away from the wall. That's going to allow air to circulate. Molds don't like airflow. But you can get some temperature differentials. You've got your heat going in your house. There's a lot more moisture in warm air than in cooler air. Well, you could have a temperature differential from the colder outside in the winter to the warmer inside. So you're going to get a condensate problem in behind your boxes because they're too close to the wall. There's no airflow. Same thing in the summer. You've got air conditioning going. You've got maybe a warmer wall. You're going to have the same issues. So keep those boxes or any items 3 to 4 inches away from the wall surface, and check once a year. Again, put this on your calendar. schedule a morning once a year to go in and just move the stuff away from the wall in your closets to see if there's any mold back there. Same thing in the basement. If you're storing things down there, boxes, for instance, don't store them on the concrete floor. Use a pallet. If you don't want to use a pallet, use 2x4s. Just lay them flat and store your boxes, stack your boxes on 2x4s. Keep airflow going underneath of them. And again, keep everything in your basement, your stored items, keep those 4 to 6 inches away from the wall, because there you've got concrete and moisture's likely to be even a bigger problem. Where you have a corner on a basement wall, you've got two wall surfaces coming together. That's going to be slightly cooler than the rest of the basement wall. Those corners are. So make sure you check those once a year, and that you do have enough room between the stored items and the wall surface so that there's air circulation.
The other thing, Jim, I think that when I go into people's homes and I notice they have mold growing in their closets, and I ask them one important question when they don't have a vent, especially when they don't have a vent in their closet. And a lot of closets that I've encountered don't have vents.
No, that's right.
So I suggest to people, number one, you can put a little fan in the closets, or two, keep your closet door open, because you need some kind of airflow. And for the people that I have suggested this to, they're like, Dave, after we, took care of the mold in the closet, that problem has not come back again. I said, well, it's because of circulation. We need circulation. We need circulation. We need ventilation. And personally, in my own personal home, Jim, my airflow is constantly moving. It's constantly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And I have it goes through a series of stages of filters, not only my return filter, but I have a HEPA filter hooked up to it. And it goes through a carbon filter. So it goes through a series of 4 different filters. And people say, oh my goodness, Dave, does it make all the difference in the world? I was like, absolutely. So it's constantly moving that airflow. Now, if you don't want to do that, and airflow is very, very important to you, you can put the fan in the override position. That way it's moving your air all the time. So people don't have to go to the extent that I did, but I'm very meticulous about airflow, about ventilation, changing my filters, my return filters regularly. And, I go into some homes, Jim, and the filters are blocked up. And I was like, when's the last time you changed this? Oh, Dave, we've, maybe a year ago. I was just like, you've got to keep things changed. You've got to keep these filters changed out. The other thing that a lot of people are using in their homes, they're using these fiberglass filters. And the fiberglass filters are not really doing much of a very good job.
No, they aren't.
I recommend to people to get, you can make your own, but if you don't want to make your own and you want to go to a store, a home improvement store, or to a Wally World, or whatever, a home improvement place, and pick up it is a pleated filter.
That's right.
And these pleated filters, you can get the pleated filters that will filter a lot of stuff. I have them in my house, Jim, that will, now this is what they say. They say that they will filter out viruses. Now, I don't know how true that is, but it's got that. It's called the Elite. It's put out by 3M, but it's supposed to even filter out viruses. I don't know how factual that is, but that's one of the things that they do. So,
Yeah, and that is crucial that you don't buy any more fiberglass filters. They remove very little from the airflow.
well, and not only that, but they also pollute your duct system, your returns, your vents,
Oh, sure.
and people who use those. There's a huge accumulation, and I know when we did a duct cleaning for a family, I had asked them if they had ever had their ducts and their vents cleaned and sanitized, and they was like, "No, we didn't." So when I brought in a duct cleaning company, a truck mount unit, and basically I just subcontracted the duct cleaning out to them, they had so much trash in their duct system, it was pitiful. We're talking
Oh, yeah.
dead skin, rodents, insects. And I was just like,
Absolutely.
have you ever cleaned this system out? They're like, no, Dave, we didn't know we were supposed to. And I'm just like, everything gets dirty. Everything. And if we don't clean it, it's just going to get dirtier and dirtier.
Now, another thing, David, I wanted to mention, you were talking about the airflow in the closets. If you don't want to go with a new louvered door, you can go to a big box store. You can buy a 12-inch by 12-inch louvered frame, little frame with louvers in it, kind of 12-inch square out of the bottom of your closet door, and screw that baby in there, and it's going to take care of that airflow problem.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is a great piece of advice. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's because we run into that a lot here with, like you said, mold in the closet, and it typically never gets found. I mean, it might sit in there for 6 or 8 years before it's determined that that's where the mold's coming from. So
Another helpful tip is that I understand that people want to get their carpets cleaned. I understand that. I recommend a carpet cleaning at least once a year to people who have wall-to-wall carpet, because it is a huge filter in your home, and
it is the largest filtering surface in your home.
Absolutely. So I tell people it is fine that you get your carpets clean, but the most important thing, folks, is to make sure that carpet is dried. When I used to do carpet cleaning, by the time I left the home, the carpet was dry. Because what I would do is I'd put air movers in there to do speed dry on the carpet. So by the time I left, it was probably 95 to 90 something% dry. And then what I would also do is put the fan in the override position. I tell people leave it on for about 12 to 24 hours. And so here's what happens if you don't do this. Mold can grow, especially some of these companies who are running 800, 900 psi down to your carpet. The moisture is hitting the padding. The padding is wet. And of course, when you keep things wet like this for a certain period of time, I'll guarantee you mold's going to grow.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's particularly true. I mean, it's true for any room in the house. But if you've got carpet in your basement, it's critical that carpet is dried as rapidly as possible.
And the same thing with furniture. When you hire somebody who comes and does a cleaning on your furniture, make sure that furniture does not stay wet, because when it stays wet, we have growth. So not only for the fabric, but also for the cushion and for the padding below there. Very, very critical. In the days that I used to do carpet and furniture cleaning and boats and airplanes and things like that, and that's what I would educate people on. They're like, hey, Dave, could I get somebody out here to do the upholstery cleaning for a lot less? I said, absolutely. You can get somebody for a lot less. You could also get people for a lot more. But here's what you're getting is you're getting me making sure that this is dry by the time I leave. And a lot of companies don't care. They just don't care. Now, I don't do carpet and furniture cleaning anymore. My passion is mold, all things, anything mold. Probably too passionate about it. But we all have a passion for something in life, don't we, Jim?
Oh yes, yes.
And
I'm the same way, Dave. I just love working this mold industry.
mm-hmm. And I just wish there were more people in our industry who were as passionate about mold as you are and as I am. But most people don't have this kind of passion. And they're really not trying to educate others and inform others. They're just trying to get your money and boom, they're gone. So I tell people, just, be educated, be informed. And folks, we're not trying to sell you on anything here. We're just trying to inform you and educate you. And hopefully, if you see some value in this video, you'll subscribe to this video. You will share this video. We really appreciate Jim, you especially, for your knowledge, for your education, for your information, and your willingness to help others. Thank you so, so much. Once again, I'm talking to Jim with Control Environmental Group. He's out of Fort Collins, Colorado. And Jim also has a product that I think everyone needs to be aware of, and it is called Air Sweep. And one of the things I like about his product, and Jim, I know you probably weren't expecting this. One of the things I like about his product is you can mist your filters in your home. You mist them, just the outside of them before you put it in. You mist them with Air Sweep, and what it does, it helps with the filtration of the filter. Jim, maybe you could give us a little more details about your product.
Well, basically, David, we have a product. There's no chemicals in it. Number one, that's a beautiful feature.
Oh yes.
It's all made from natural minerals out of the earth. But what it does is we take for instance, a quart of Air Sweep. It will give you the same surface area roughly as 1/4 to 1/3 of a football field.
Mm-hmm,
That quart of Air Sweep will. It carries a charge on it. Most pollutants that we deal with in our homes or our indoor environments are positively charged.
Right.
Air Sweep is negatively charged, and it's, like I said, it's a molecular sieve that's negatively charged. You apply it to your walls, your flooring, and I don't mean the entire floor. I'm talking about 12 inches out, maybe 12, 16 inches up on a wall.
Right.
You apply it to the backs of doors, apply it to your furnace filters, and that negative charge attracts the positive charge, but it's attracted into a molecular sieve. So all the way down to 0.02 microns, which is much smaller than most any other filter that you're going to buy that's available to you to buy is going to remove.
Right.
Just does a wonderful job of cleaning up the air. And like I said, the thing that I'm really excited about is there's not a chemical in this product, so it's safe. It's absolutely safe.
It's safe and it's organic. It's all natural, right, Jim?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. The other thing, the last thing I want to point out about Jim's product, and folks, I use his product too. It's called Air Sweep. It works. It's real. There's no perfumey smell. It's natural. It's safe. The other thing that you could use it for is for people who are using these masks. Say, for example, you're using an N95 mask or you're making your own mask. Just give the mask a nice mist. Okay, just mist it on the outside. Isn't that correct, Jim?
That's right. That's right.
So and it will be very helpful to you. I know Jim probably didn't expect this, but I'm a big believer in his product. We're not trying to sell anything to you. We're just trying to educate you and inform you. And I use his product, and it's very important that whatever products you use in your home, that you make sure that they're safe, because there are a lot of dangerous chemicals and a lot of dangerous products on the market, Jim.
Oh yes, there certainly are. In fact, there's products, David, that we use, and when I say we, our society, we use every day, and many of these products are banned in other countries.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I just want to tell people that, remember, your home is your castle. These are just some information. This is just information to help you around your home or around your building, or maybe you've got some issues in your commercial building, and these are just some things for you to watch out and be aware of. If you don't want to do this yourself, and hire somebody to come in who's very observant to do the inspection for you. And it could be a visual inspection. You could have somebody check out your walls with the infrared thermal scan. You could have somebody come in there and take air samples. If you don't know what something is and you need verification that it is mold, you can take a swab sample with a Q-tip or a lift-off tape, piece of Scotch tape. Those are some other things. And Jim does all this. I do all this. I'm out of Charlotte, North Carolina, executiverestoration.com. And Jim was with Control Environmental Group out of Fort Collins, Colorado. Jim, once again, thank you so much for the opportunity to inform others and to educate others. It's always a pleasure to hear your knowledge, and you're sharing your knowledge and your wisdom. And Jim is the go-to man with Control Environmental Group out of Fort Collins, Colorado.
Well, thank you, David. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're so welcome. So this is David Snell with executiverestoration.com. Got mold, we have thecure.com. And until our next video, thank you so much.